And I will say that there are some questions in here that might be difficult for people to hear the answer to. So it's like that little warning, sensitive information, or not sensitive, you know what I mean. And this is one of them. Okay, so here we go. In late stage Alzheimer's, there's no quality of life and it's hard on the family. Have you thought about assisted death options for the final stage? Not sure that's even an option where you are. It's good to discuss with your family while you're sound of mind. So I think that that's not an option for me where I live. I'm not 100% sure though. The reason why I think it's that way is because soon after I got diagnosed, it just so happened that I was dropping my daughter off at her boyfriend's place and his parents were there. So I went in to have a chat with them, just to be polite and that sort of stuff. And I found out then that the mum, she works as a nurse in a facility where they do that, assisted dying. And I was like obviously interested in trying to figure out, well, what does that mean for me, without giving it away that I was interested in that. And she just said that, and this is my recollection of it, I could be wrong, I haven't looked into this any further. You needed 2 doctors to agree that you've got 6 months or less to live, expected to live, and that you need to be of sound mind in order to make that decision. And so it kind of rules out the whole dementia scenario. I won't be of sound mind when I'm that near to death, so I don't think it's an option for me. I think that's probably that could be a whole video in itself though, on how I feel about that. I guess my initial my response to that is just, yeah, let me go. I'm sorry if my questions are insensitive. I want to thank you for sharing your story so publicly. I never thought I'd be watching a guy talk about his dementia on YouTube, but here we are. How do you find a reason to keep going? It must be rough to know how your disease is going to progress and to see others further down the line and still find a reason to keep going. I actually think, I think it's pretty remarkable that we're not all freaking out. There's something about being human that makes us ignore the fact that we're all only got a limited time and that none of us actually know when that time's coming to an end. And yet we're not all walking around petrified in anxiety thinking about it. So I kind of feel like I'm just doing that. I don't think, I think that whatever that is that makes humans not stressed about that, I feel like I'm just doing that. What does a dementia moment feel like? Do you know you've forgotten something, or is it just complete absence of memory? So in a recent video, when I entitled Symptoms, I sort of articulated through what it felt like when I have those times when I'm finding it difficult to talk. And today I'm feeling fantastic, as in I'm talking really well. But some days I'm really struggling with talking in terms of finding words and finding sentences, and I articulate what that feels like. So I'm not going to go into that again now. But the other day I told my daughter, I don't usually talk to my kids about this channel. They know about the channel because they found out about it through, their mum actually. But, so they know about the channel. So the other day I was talking to my eldest daughter and I said, hey, look, I made this post asking people to leave questions for me. And I was telling her, I said I was deliberating on whether or not I should do that post, because I was feeling like, what if I only get like 1 or 2 people asking a question? It's a little bit embarrassing. I've got nothing really more to, there's not enough questions then to sort of go through. And I said, look, so I got all these, there's 77 comments now, and there's heaps there. And she goes, when I told her that, she goes, yeah, I know, Dad, you already told me that. I'd completely forgotten that I told her something, and then she'd said, yeah, I already know. And I'm thinking, that's just it's a weird feeling. because my reality is it's like everyone's got a reality, yeah? You got, in your head, you got a reality of what happens in the past. You know your memory's faulty and stuff, but you still think, you get surprised by how faulty it is. That I'm going to say now, there's a few comments in here like, have you looked into X, Y, and Z things, all right? If you've asked a question about that, I'm going to say no to all of them, all right? Haven't explored them and stuff. It goes back to my previous answer. I want to explore this stuff with my geriatrician. Some of these questions are really invasive and followed by perhaps hurtful statements. When you jump on, I feel like when you jump on YouTube, you don't treat it the same way as if you're having a face-to-face conversation with someone. You know, you will ask questions that are more going into someone's personal life more on YouTube to a complete stranger than you will if you met that person face-to-face. I've also flagged, you can ask me anything and I'll only answer the things I feel comfortable answering. So I'll be honest, I haven't felt like the questions have been hurtful in any way. What do you do to center yourself when you feel overwhelmed, scared, and sad about your diagnosis and how it's affecting you? You know what I've been doing a bit lately, actually? When I just sort of feel, it's probably more associated with just feeling tired a lot, I've been listening to white noise. So when I start feeling tired, I'll just go to bed and I'll put white noise on. And more often than not, I'll end up just falling asleep. And then I'll wake up and I feel, you know, more rested. So when I'm sort of feeling overwhelmed, that's been really helpful for me. What area of research are you in and what do you find interesting about it? So I've conveniently not said what area of research I'm in, and it's just because I'm trying to give information. I'm trying to make sure that people can't identify me, especially when the media stuff happened. I was like really grateful that I wasn't easily identifiable in a sense. So I try to keep that sort of information because I feel like that's information you could use to identify somebody. So I try to keep that at a very high level. So I'm not going to give you the area of research I work in, but what I can tell you is that what I find interesting is I'm naturally a curious person. I always want to know why. You know, why did that happen? And so that's why I think research just lends itself perfectly for me, because I'm curious by nature, and I'm curious by the things that I'm researching as well. Might be the least favorite question to ask, but what do you fear in your future and think it holds? I don't think it's the least favorite question. I think it's actually a really, really good question. What do you fear in your future? I think the most fearful thing is being alone. You know, I think that's going to be the hardest part if I feel like, you know, if I become alone, I guess, through the later stages. That would be a fear, I would say. But what I think will happen is that I'll be loved and I'll be okay. This one here is, you mentioned your family. Do you have any good stories about them? Do any of them have favourite stories about you? That's going to be like a whole episode. So I'll get on that another time. I would like to ask you about the very early signs you got and you can share. Again, and I've said this I think a few times, is it's just normal you sort of just forget stuff. But for me, it was, I felt like I forgot things that were like, oh, that's a pretty big memory stuff up. And so that was my earliest, what I remember of my symptoms. How would you prefer people to respond to you telling them that you have dementia? I covered that in maybe the last episode, I think it was. Do you have a good memory of your earlier life, or has that begun to decline too? I've always had a really crap memory of my childhood for some reason. It's always been kind of shitty. But it's also hard to tell because my siblings are considerably older than me, and so they'll recall things from my childhood and say, "Do you remember that?" And I'm like, "No." "Remember that?" And I'm like, "No." But that's probably because they're older too. You know, they can have a better recollection of it all. And so my memory as a child probably wasn't all that bad. But apparently, with dementia, you tend to lose. It works the other way. So apparently, as you get in your later stages, you'll remember more and more of your childhood. And you'll start living in that world again. How old are your kids and how are they processing the news? I've got 3 kids. I've only ever talked about my daughters. I've got a son as well. He's the eldest. He's 21. My girls are then 18 and 16. And he's going through his own troubles and having his own rough time. I haven't told him about the diagnosis. I don't want to add another layer of crap to what he's going through. But I have reached out to him to just tell him. I'm going to have to tell him. Yeah, so what's your favourite ice cream flavour and why? I like mint. Mint's pretty good because I just like that refreshing feeling about it. Can you share the artist or link to the song you use at the end of each video? It's been stuck in my head for ages. I did reply back to this person in case you're interested in, because it is a really cool song. I really like it. It suits the videos really well. I edit my videos in CapCut just on my phone. That's how I do all my stuff. I actually can directly get the SD card and put it into my phone and then do it all on my phone. Don't touch a computer. I love that. Because I work all day on a computer and I hate being on a computer any more than I have to. So, but anyway, I do it on CapCut, and in there it's called "For the Road" by HeyCan595. Do you anticipate or plan for somebody else to assist and continue with these videos when you're no longer able to do so? At the start, I think that wasn't to be the case, but wonder if that changed now that you have such a following. I feel with that is that, okay, I don't mind, like in John and Heather's case where John's showing the lived experience and you see Heather in the later stages. I don't mind if that happens to me. That's perfectly fine. Show it. If it's helpful, show it. I have to say though, I tend to come out and do these videos on days that I'm feeling better. On days that I'm feeling really fatigued or I'm feeling foggy-headed, I don't tend to come out and do these. It's going to reach a point where I'm going to have more and more of those days and I feel less and less inclined to make these videos. And on days that I've got no motivation, it takes effort. And so I'm going to put myself ahead of these videos and I'll decide what I want to do then, but it might be the case that I stop them or only do them less frequently. Or I just, be okay and say, get my phone up and I'll talk to it for 5 minutes and whatever you get, you get. It could definitely be that way too. Anyway, but in terms of getting other people to do them, I think that's up to them at the end of the day. I'm not going to ask anybody to do it. I think it's that if they're smart enough, if they feel like they want to do it and they'll just ask if they, so it's up to them. Okay, how's your relationship with your family transformed after diagnosis? We tend to see each other more. Also I feel like I've got a sister and a brother who have both said, come live with me. Do you ever hold back from answering these questions truthfully because it's too painful or you don't want to burden others? I feel like I lay it on pretty straight. Like I'm always aware that people I know are going to see this, and I feel like I've still said stuff that is pretty open. I'm always chuffed to hear that you're practicing music. I was wondering if the experience of learning new music is changing the same way that your memory is changing in your experience. Is it getting harder to learn? Are you forgetting songs that you knew? Are you forgetting any skills that you'd learned? I just keep struggling to be motivated enough to practice. I have the last couple of weeks I've been practicing more. I had a bit of time off. I was surprised when I came back to it. I felt like I'd forgotten everything. But I'm probably doing better than what I think I am, So like my teacher, the person who's teaching me says, no, yeah, you're doing really well actually, it's all good. I think I'm doing pretty good. In fact, it's probably a really good thing to help with your confidence. If you feel like I think it's really important. My symptoms are still mild. I can still learn things, and it's good. It's a good reminder, I think, that you can still learn things. Because I think it'd be very easy to get in the headspace of I can't learn things. I think I just find it tiresome to learn stuff now. Anyway, but have the docs put you on a medication to slow the progression? Yeah, they put me on. I can never remember the name of it's there. I'll put it up on the screen. That's just to help slow the onset of the symptoms, not the progression of the disease, though. How's your family doing? Do they or you have a therapist to help the process? Yeah, so when I told my girls, I basically just then organised for them to have a counsellor each so they can go talk to. And to be honest, I don't think they really talked that much about the whole diagnosis with the counsellor. I think they're talking about their own stuff going on in their life. I suppose this is a philosophical question. How has your perspective on life changed? Purpose, meaning, etc. It's a pretty open question, they've said. I've been a little bit upset actually with myself because I feel like since November my mental health went, and I feel like I've not engaging with things as much as I should. I have been engaging with them more recently as well, but sort of wanting to crawl into a hole a bit more. So purpose of life sort of stuff is not obviously great then. But the meaning and stuff of life and the purpose of life, that's a higher question still, isn't it? Hasn't really changed. I still sort of see life as you've got a limited amount of time and just go live it. It can be harder to live it though. What has the medical system been like for this kind of disease? In your experience, is there a lot of support and knowledge, or do you find it lacking? What sort of change would you like to see in the way society and the medical system treat dementia? So I kind of just feel like that. I feel like it's too long. I needed to see a geriatrician. Since my diagnosis, I've been needing to see a geriatrician. I was diagnosed, 10 months ago now, or something like that. I still haven't seen a geriatrician. I actually think I get it. It's still a slowly progressing disease, and so. I don't know. I kind of feel like just more regular contact. How do you navigate life knowing that your cognitive faculties are unraveling as you go? That's pretty direct. I think it's a constant struggle of what I've experienced so far. Is just a constant struggle of what is happening. Is this normal? Is this to be expected? It's the questioning of all that. That's what the struggle is with it all, I find. Can you speculate on the similarities in memory loss between people with dementia and people with ADHD? So I have loved ones with ADHD. I don't know enough about ADHD to be able to say this is what the difference is. I think a really important thing to keep in mind is that dementia is a really wide variety of different conditions and experiences. Like I remember when I did that sort of learning thing through Dementia Australia, they gave a great example of someone who had dementia, and they had no issues with their memory, no issues with language, but they had issues with how their brain processed their senses. So they could go outside in the rain and it would feel like razor blades is cutting them. Just keep that in mind. And I'm sure people with ADHD also are not the same as well, and their experiences are different from each other as well. I guess there's also common traits, so you're going to experience. What I've noticed is that two things. One is that, well, my symptoms are getting worse. So I didn't have these symptoms prior. It's only just in the last recent years where they've had it their whole life. And things like forgetfulness and things like that, they experience those things. A lot of similarities with that. And even being able to think and get your thoughts, keep it, get jumping ahead. Their brain might be working 100 mile an hour and jumping ahead and forgetting things that way. The only thing I've noticed could be different, and this might be, you might have ADHD and you might say, actually, I get that too. So sorry, Fraser. Again, this is me not knowing. But in my conversations I've had with people that I know, one thing I've definitely noticed has been the fogginess that I get, the hazy, foggy experience that I get. They haven't seemed to experience that. Yeah, so I think it's getting quite dark now. I might lighten this up. All right, so someone's asked, are there hats? I did say you can ask me anything. I'm going to give a response back to that and say, sometimes. Do you notice any change in your sleep and your dreams? Haven't noticed any change in dreams. My sleep went downhill a bit when my mental health went down. And then it's improved again. I tend to get my full night's sleep in again. I do wake up sometimes throughout the night, though, a bit more than I probably used to, but I can still fall asleep all right. What I have noticed, though, is that I sleep now during the day. I have a sleep during the day now because I just feel exhausted. Do you have any interest in listening to Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker? It's a 6-album musical project about dementia based on old music. If you say no, I completely understand. It gets difficult to listen to even for someone without dementia. Yeah, so people have mentioned this, and I'll be honest, I had a little look and then saw it was like 6 albums, and I started playing. I don't even like the sound of this. Or if you can direct me to a particular song or something, or what I could be looking for, and I'm being lazy with that, but it's 6 albums. Come on. It's probably great though. It also reminds me of someone's mentioned about an artist who got Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia, and their paintings gradually degraded over time, and that became the actual art piece. Is it possible for you to binge a season of television and keep up with the story? If not, do you take notes to help you? I reckon I definitely binge. I can binge things and keep up with the story. This is the funny thing, is you don't know what you don't know, do you? I might have forgotten things in there that I don't know that I've forgotten. Details. Like when I watched Vikings with my partner and totally watched the whole thing with her and totally forgot that I'd watched it with her and thought she'd never seen it before, which is horrible. But I don't experience issues with that. I can follow along with the storyline. I do notice that if I went to her house and I was watching something with her, and I don't go there very often, and so it's like, what are we watching again? And like, that's different, 'cause it's not binging, it's not frequent enough, sort of coming back to it, and she'd have a much better recollection of where we're up to, what we're watching, and than what I do. I'll be like, takes me a few minutes to think, what are we even watching again? So maybe there is, but I'm not fussed by it. Do you get a lot of people trying to give you medical advice? In everyday life, no, don't get it all. On here, yes. Can you feel the smell of things? Cool question, but no. Does it affect your taste? Like, are sandwiches better or worse? I love this person has gone, does it affect your taste, and specifically sandwiches? Nah, I still like sandwiches. Good sandwiches are good. Haven't noticed any change. How do you deal with the comments on here that are utterly ludicrous things like eat more X, go on X diet, or try X supplement? I find them so offensive, and I don't know how you deal with them. I'm going to be honest. It's getting a lot to me. There's just so many of them. Like there's literally pages of various things, and the really common ones come up over and over and over again because the person probably sees a dementia. Like I think a lot of people might not even have watched any more than a video, or even watched any more than one video, and might not even finished a video, and they've just put in there, have you tried the keto diet, for example. And so I'm going to be honest, I've had enough of it. I don't think there's anything else that anyone's ever going to say now that hasn't already been said. So these are all things I can come back to, and again, I can pass by with a medical professional. Are you finding it hard to play an instrument? Bloody oath. It is ridiculously difficult to play. And I don't think that's not just a dementia thing. That is, anyone would find it hard to play an instrument. You got to learn the music theory along with how to play the instrument itself. It is so incredibly difficult. I've got so much admiration for people who can just go, hey, give me a sheet of music and I'll play this instrument and I'll play the song with it. It's just amazing. Are you an organ donor? Would you donate your brain to science? Thank you for the question, not the donation. Yeah, I am an organ donor, and I got no issue donating my brain.
Daybreak, I'm already miles away, and there's nothing left to say.